Greetings from MWN.com. Dr.M.Wilson, formerly Vice Principal and Head of Department of Commerce, Scott Christian College, Nagercoil is delighted in presenting this session. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel MWN.com. Macroeconomic equilibrium. Macroeconomic equilibrium is a state where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal, which results in stable prices and output. It is important for economic stability and helps policymakers understand conditions and create strategies. The point of macroeconomic equilibrium is where the aggregate demand AD curve and the aggregate supply S curve intersect. If the quantity of real GDP supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, firms will cut production and prices. If the quantity of real GDP demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, firms will increase production and prices. Factors that affect macroeconomic equilibrium include prices, supply, and demand. When these factors change, then there is an impact on inflation, real GDP, and employment. Macroeconomic equilibrium is a theoretical state where the total amount of goods and services supplied in an economy will not always equal to the total amount demanded. It is a theoretical concept since it is unlikely that an economy will ever actually reach a state of equilibrium. But it tempts to be constantly moving towards equilibrium through the government policies. When the economy is not in equilibrium, changes like price or wage adjustments occur in the market to reach it. Meaning of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Aggregate demand represents the total demand within an economy for all kinds of goods and services at a certain price point for a given period, normally for 1 year. Aggregate supply means the supply of goods and services that companies produce and plan to sell at a certain price in a given period, normally for 1 year. It also refers to the finished goods that consumers purchase during a specified time. Importance of macroeconomic equilibrium. 1. Economic stability. The economic stability of a country depends on the macroeconomic equilibrium or at least near to the equilibrium. 2. Policymaking. Macroeconomic equilibrium helps policymakers understand conditions prevailing in the economy and thereby they can create strategies accordingly. 3. Explaining economic fluctuations. It helps to explain economic fluctuations and policy impacts. 4. Price stability. The efforts of government to make the market is in equilibrium, prices become stable. 5. Output stability. The efforts of government to make the market is in equilibrium, output becomes stable. The following diagram clearly explains the concept of macroeconomic equilibrium. The diagram is well presented here. X-axis of the diagram represents real output, that is real GDP, and Y-axis represents price level. It is known from the diagram that the aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve cut at a point which is called the equilibrium point. Quantity demanded and quantity supplied at this point are equal. In this level there is stability in price level. Perpendicular lines from the equilibrium point towards X-axis and Y-axis should be drawn which cut at point Q0 and P0. Origin to Q0 is equilibrium quantity demanded and supplied. Origin to P0 is equilibrium price level.